Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shattered in Child Abuse and Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. I was saying the name of my book accidentally instead. I gotta cut the background noise out right here. Thanks for supporting me. I always like to start with some Bible verses. Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of those little ones which believe of me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Matthew 18, verse 10. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Colossians chapter 3, verse 21, and this fits well with this story. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. We stand up, people say we need to be quiet, that we need to that's past is past. No, we need to speak up. The Bible even tells us this in Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Let me go ahead and turn this brand thing off on the back screen. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Let me make sure that I will put this trigger warning up here. Hey there, get to know. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Hey, hey, Bucket. Hey, love you, Buck. Oh, thank you so much, Tammy. That's what we got to do. We got to stick up and stand up for each other and help one another. Well, Gavin Peterson lived in Utah. He's a 12-year-old. Is murdered. His biological father, stepmother, and brother were arrested. Without further ado, I will have to mute my mic because the very first place that I got to share has got a video.
Death of a 12-year-old boy from West Haven. KSL has now learned that multiple reports were made to the Utah Division of Child and Family Services about suspected child abuse.
News specialist Shara Park joining us now live from that home. Such a heartbreaking and disturbing case. Shara, who was making those reports? Do we know?
And this case continues to unfold, you guys. Well, we are learning that those reports were coming from staff in the Weber County School District. That's where 12-year-old Gavin Peterson attended school up until last year when he was pulled out or removed from school to be homeschooled. We're still looking into who made that call. It was done by a guardian, so we don't know if it was a stepfather, his stepmother, but we're still looking into that part of this. Now, I just spoke with Gavin's uncle, and his family on his mother's side has given us permission to use his name and to share his photo. They currently have a GoFundMe to raise money for his funeral service. They describe Gavin as a sweet boy with a big smile who loved Pokemon. They say they are devastated by what has happened and that there is a complicated history regarding custody to be told, but they're just not quite ready to share that yet. As we reported yesterday, Gavin died July 9th. His father, older brother, and stepmother arrested for child abuse homicide. Today, we learned from the Weber School District when Gavin was in school during the 22-23 school year, multiple complaints complaints of suspected child abuse were filed by school employees with DCFS. We reached out to the agency requesting information on how those reports were investigated, and this is the response we got in part that said, DCFS respects that each child and family has a right to privacy and remains firm in our commitment to that privacy for the children and families in Utah. DCFS will continue its practice and refrain from sharing specific information on a case, past or present. But that response continues with, the loss of any child impacts and devastates us. This is tragic for so many, from the family and the community to all those involved. The Utah Division of Child and Family Services works with children and families during some of their most vulnerable moments. Now, neighbors have told us they witnessed what they believed was punishment labor at the house involving Gavin. Long hours in the sun with no water. We've also heard of reports of harassment from the Peterson family. Now we're hearing that school employees suspected and reported potential abuse as well. We will continue to look into these allegations and these reports, and we will update you as we know more. But guys, as we send it back to you, this is one of those cases that it just continues to peel back the layers, and there's a lot more to try to figure out in terms of what happened here at this house and what happened here with this young boy. We'll send it back to you.
Tammy, I'm glad you're back in here. Back at your, I hope you're safe, but pray that you for your safety and everything. I know what's going on. A lot of people in here might not understand, but we are here for you. Child Protective Services is bad. A lot of times they do not protect. So we got your back, girl. We're praying for you. Y'all remember to pray for her and her safety. She's going through a lot. Maybe sometimes you'll be able to come on here and disclose it when the time's right for her to do so. Welcome to. So Utah boy died after relatives abused him for several years, withdrew him from school, investigators said, with a say. Before he was taken out of school, the elementary's employees had suspected abuse and neglect and filed multiple complaints with the Utah Division of Child and Safety Services, officials said. They did have a GoFundMe, but it has been closed. I went checked on that to people that might have wanted to give, but it has been closed, all right? A 12-year-old Utah boy's father, stepmother, and older brother have all been arrested and accused of starving and beating the child over the course of several years, leading to his death earlier this month from the total organ failure. Authorities first reported the boy's death on July the 9th, sharing that at 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, Weber County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the family's West Haven home for a medical call involving a child. All them calls, they should have went ahead and got him and took him to the mother, taken him to a safer place. It is CPS's failure's fault. The boy was unresponsive when deputies arrived and they assisted family members with CPR, authorities said. The boy was then taken by ambulance to a local hospital where he died. The Weber County Sheriff's Office extends its condolences to the family. Our thoughts and prayers are with them as they lost. Read a statement at the time noting that authorities were investigating the cause of the child's death. On Thursday, the sheriff's office confirmed the boy's death was considered a homicide and announced a relative's arrest in connection with the case. The boy's 46-year-old father, Shane Peterson, was booked into the Weber County Jail Wednesday and charged Friday with one count of reckless child abuse, homicide, 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and 1 count of child endangerment, court records show. Nicole Scott, the child's 50-year-old stepmother, was booked into jail the same day and charged Friday with one count of reckless child abuse homicide, two counts of aggravated child abuse, two counts of obstruction of justice, and one count each of child endangerment and possession of a controlled substance. Wow. On Thursday, the boy's 21-year-old brother, see, 21-year-old, Tyler Peterson, was also arrested and later charged Friday with one count of reckless child abuse homicide, two counts of aggravated child abuse, and one count of obstruction of justice. The sheriff's office did not name the child who died, but we know who the child is, and that was his. In the wake of the boy's death, identified him as Gavin Peterson. The campaign's organizer described herself as a sister of Gavin's mother, whose custody of Gavin had varied since he was an infant, court records indicate. The organizer wrote that Gavin was a happy kid whose favorite color was blue and who loved science and Pokemon. My sister is doing what no other mother should have to do, burying her 12-year-old son. An attempt to reach the organizer Friday afternoon was immediately unsuccessful. Okay, school employees had reported suspected abuse. Here it is the Weber County Sheriff's Complex in Ogden. Weber County Sheriff Complex, which houses the county jail, a 12-year-old Utah boy's father, stepmother, and older brother were all booked into the facility without the option for bail this week after authorities say they abused him for several years, leading to his death. Gavin was severely malnourished when deputies arrived for the July 9th medical call, authorities disclosed Thursday. According to the father's charging documents, someone at the home called 911 after the boy had been vomited and suffering seizures without medical help for several days. See that? They told CPS, but the school contacted CPS, but they did nothing. CPS did nothing. But we're going to have CPS's answer on here in a little bit. The child's stepmother and older brother shared differing accounts with authorities. The father's charging documents state the woman told authorities the boy was conscious when she found him in his room covered in vomit. She then said she helped him into the shower and left the bathroom, but returned when she heard a loud noise to find him unresponsive. You reckon you're starving him? He's weak. You're abusing him. Gosh. Sorry. Get back over here. The boy's 21-year-old brother told authorities that Gavin was already unresponsive when he found him in the bedroom. The investigation into Gavin's death. Okay. Sorry, I accidentally had a timer set and it messed up my uh, phone for a minute. The investigation into Gavin's death uncovered a prolonged pattern of abuse over the course of several years. A document explaining the probable cause for his relatives' arrest states. So evidently they got him out of school so that they would not have any more reports. On Friday, the Weber School District said in a statement that officials were recently made aware of the former student's tragic death. The statement noted the boy previously attended an elementary school in the district, but in August 2023, the start of the last school year, the student was withdrawn from school by a guardian who completed an affidavit for homeschool. This essentially ended our contract with the student and terminated any authority the district had related to their education, the statement continued. The district went on to note that because of student privacy laws and the ongoing criminal investigation, officials could not disclose any details regarding his educational experiences while enrolled at the school. Officials did, however, say that school employees had suspected abuse and neglect and filed multiple complaints with the Utah Division of Child and Family Services related to the child. The district did not specify how many complaints were filed and deferred to the Child Welfare Agency for any additional details and findings. The district is currently offering support to teachers and school employees who have been affected by this horrific tragedy. The statement continued, the death of any student can have a profound effect on those who knew them and who were involved in their education. The district noted that counselors are also available to any students who may be struggling. We will also look for ways to support and care for other family members of this student who may have ties to our district, the statement concluded. Photos text suggests boy was locked in. That's an ad, sorry. Authorities suspect the boy had been abused for years in part because of relatives, evidence found on the relatives' cell phones. The probable cause document states photos recovered from the stepmother's phone showed the boy locked in a carpetless room without bedding or blankets. He was monitored with multiple cameras, the document states. Some photos showed sores on the boy's back. Others depicted the child wearing only a diaper and covered in feces, the document adds. Text message conversations between the three accused family members discussed watching the boy on camera, starving him, and feeding him, the document states. The text also indicates that the boy was either not fed at times or only given a piece of bread and mustard to eat. Oh my, that's like I had to sneak in the house and I just had when I was living with my mom in Florida and my stepdad, I had to sneak in the house just to eat, and I had mayonnaise, ketchup, salt, and pepper sandwiches, just one a day. It kept me alive though, but I was starving, man. The relatives deleted some of the text conversations on that day, on the day the authorities were called. Wow. And these are digital fingerprint, y'all. You know that, right? Investigators also found drugs in the home, leading to the possession of a controlled substance allegation against the boy's stepmother. All three relatives remained in Weber County Jail without the option to post bail. Court records show the child's mother and father divorced in 2013 when Gavin was an infant. His custody arrangement was initially split between both parents, but after his mother was arrested in 2014 because Gavin was allegedly found wandering unsupervised, and police later discovered she had drugs out in the home, his father was granted sole custody. She was later found guilty of one count of permitting a child to be exposed to controlled substances, a third-degree felony. Wow, wow, wow. So maybe it wouldn't have been good for the mother to have him either. By 2016, as it was near the end of his probation period, of her probation period, a judge modified Gavin's custody arrangement again. His father was granted primary custody when his mother was granted some weekend, summer, and holiday custody, court records show. But y'all should have been checking it out because, with the DFS, then you would have seen that that other woman's doing drugs and stuff. Y'all would have come and seen, maybe able to say that. Boy. More details about the child's custody arrangement before his death were not immediately known. These types of cases are extremely difficult to process and investigate, the Weber County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. The agency also said it was grateful for the countless hours investigators worked on the case. Did no one ever do a check, like call and say, check on him? Y'all know what I'm saying? Nobody called the police and said, go and check on him. So right here is where community pays respect. So let me mute my mic again. Okay, let me look over here right quick. Sorry. See one from the pits of hell. government employees that are supposed to protect children, hurting them to many cases, hate to be them when they stand before the Lord and we work exactly. Amen to that.
New question, what if you're hurting, in pain, or very sick, but you can't really tell anyone?
Yeah, tonight's Pay It Forward is about a dad and his autistic son and his plan to give nonverbal autistic kids a voice.
Jeff Wilson has a 7-year-old son on the autism spectrum, and for the most part, John is nonverbal. But when he started learning sign language, something changed.
When John started learning sign language, he actually took off with it and started teaching himself with his tablet. And so he knows well over 700 words on sign language.
So Jeff, who worked with Gold Cross Ambulance, got to thinking, how can I help kids like my son if they need medical attention? He came up with autism kits.
He came to me and we had the position available and I said go, and he just ran with it. Honestly, we just support him and he does all the work.
So what's in an autism kit? Jeff took us through the project. There's a sign board so autism patients can communicate better. Also a pain board to communicate more about their injuries. And a transport board that explains in simple terms where they are going and why. And if they get overwhelmed, headphones.
What he uses it for is to tell us that he needs a timeout, that he's overwhelmed, and that he just needs to be by himself. So when he puts his headphones on, it's his indication to us that we need to back off.
Which actually happened during our interview. Jeff also carries popper bracelets. He says they seem to keep autistic kids calm.
Several agencies tell me wonderful stories about how they used the autism kits that we created, and this is how they've been able to use different techniques that they've never used before for special needs like autism.
But more and more kits are needed, so time to meet Liv Gilbert with Mountain America Credit Union to pay it forward.
We are just so impressed with what you're doing. It's remarkable. It's amazing for the autism community. Honestly,
So in West Haven, Utah, police said 12-year-old Gavin Peterson was neglected and abused by his father, stepmother, and brother, which led to his death. Those three people were arrested in connection to his death. Can y'all hear me? After the community found out about what happened to Gavin, some people went to his home to pay their respects. Okay, the fences in front of the house turned into a makeshift memorial with ribbons, balloons, stuffed animals, and flowers, put there for a child who police said was neglected and abused. The ribbons on the fence are blue for more than one reason. I was planning on blue for abuse awareness, and we found out it was Gavin's favorite color, Brendan Lipton said. Lipton's kids went to school with Gavin, but she said he had been homeschooled for quite some time. Once they heard what happened, they wanted to pay their respects. Balloons and stuffed animals. Oh, what is sorry. It's hard for my littles to understand what's going on, Lipton said. They're heartbroken. Balloons and stuffed animals make the fence a pretty sight from the road, but inside those walls lies a different story. Whoa. And it said neighbors near the West Haven home, where authorities say a 12-year-old boy died for neglect and abuse, are not shocked by the accusations against his family. According to probable cause documents, the boy's room was carpetless and didn't have bedding or blankets. The documents and screenshots showed him wearing only a heavy saturated diaper and curling up on the floor with sores on his back. Disgusting. Sorry, I had to take a couple moments at times, so sorry, y'all. Dickens said reading things like that makes her angry as a mother. It honestly hurt because we are our kids' safe place, she said. They should come to us and talk to us and feel safe and tell us what's going on. And he didn't have that. It has not been made clear what his biological mother's involvement in his life was at this point. So now we go to here. Would school staff demand accountability after death of West Haven 12-year-old? So this was a the vigil that went on. I'm sorry. So let me go ahead and try this again.
Linear binaural mod devices uses dual mode stimulation to.
All right, thank you very much. We'll keep you updated if we get any new information on what may have caused that crash. Well, with the criminal investigation play over a 12-year-old West Haven boy's death, we've still yet to learn how Utah's Department of Child and Family Services, DCFS, handled claims from several school workers prior to his death.
Weber schools confirmed last week that abuse and neglect concerns were reported directly to the state.
Yeah, but employees who made those complaints say it's clear they might not have been taken seriously. Our Ariel Harrison live from DCFS with the very latest for us tonight. Ariel.
Mark, Jamie, educators fall into that realm of mandated reporters. And like we just mentioned, Weber schools confirmed with us last week that multiple complaints were filed by employees and long before the boy died 2 weeks ago. Now, the district has warned its employees from speaking with media. However, one former and 2 current employees wanted to talk because they say they just can't stay silent about this.
He was your typical little kid. You had to tell him to sit down occasionally.
It's been several years since Jackie Allred drove the bus 12-year-old Gavin Peterson rode to school.
Was there any neglect at that point that you noticed?
Not that I noticed. I know the stepmother was very protective, wanted to make sure he sat where she thought he needed to be.
But news of his death hits too close to home. She lives just a door down from where Gavin lived and where his family members were arrested last week. Allred says the allegations keep her up at night.
Still haunts me.
You worked in Gavin's school.
Yes, I was a lunch lady.
Jan Davis, a former district employee, told me she is one of the workers who reported abuse concerns to DCFS. She says after a group of them tried to feed Gavin at school, his stepmom put a stop to it.
The next week he come to school and he had a chipped front tooth, and we were all afraid that we had caused that.
In addition to Davis and other lunch workers, she says Gavin's principal, the school nurse, and a teacher also filed complaints with the state. Bus drivers did as well.
I felt like something needed to be done.
Brindy Lipham helps on the buses in the district. She didn't know Gavin well, but planned the vigil for him last night. A task that broke her heart, knowing so little about the boy from his obituary.
One photo, they say they knew what he liked, Pokemon and Blue. It was a school picture. Where was he as a kid? Where was he playing? We don't really know he liked Pokemon because obviously he wasn't doing those things.
As frustration builds, so do the calls and demands for answers.
Did they check into it? What was their findings and why didn't they help him?
Now, Davis says she tried to follow up on her report about Gavin, but was told by the DCFS hotline that privacy laws prevented them from sharing that information. She feels strongly now that if school personnel see and report abuse regarding children's safety in the schools, that they should know whether those reports or filings were ever followed up on. Reporting live from DCFS, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Dual mode stimulation to soothe tinnitus. Lanier combines sound stimulation.
Heart-wrenching, sick to my stomach.
Community members want answers following the death of a 12-year-old West Haven boy last week. It's our top story tonight on 2 News at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Heidi Hatch.
And I'm Mark Cabell. This after the Weber School District confirmed employees there reported abuse concerns multiple times to the state.
Ariel Harrison, tonight that story from the school district and more on that investigation.
Community members want to know if school employees did their part by filing reports with DCFS, why this boy fell through the cracks and was allowed to remain in that home. Questions I attempted to get answers to today.
Absolutely heart-wrenching, sick to my stomach.
As the memorial for 12-year-old Gavin grows outside his West Haven home, emotions do too.
How could this go on and no one know? How could it have been reported and heads aren't rolling?
Today, a community member who asked we conceal their identity spoke with us about news of the reports of multiple complaints filed. What did you know about the complaints?
I knew one had been filed. I have spoken with that person since, and it's heartbreaking. That person is absolutely distraught over it because that person done everything they could.
This morning, I reached out to DCFS to ask if they would confirm the district's statement that multiple reports concerning the boy's safety were filed. Their response cited privacy laws, saying, quote, DCFS legally cannot provide any information regarding these questions or claims. In a separate statement, the department said the death, quote, devastates us, calling it tragic, and said the agency, quote, works with children and families during some of their most vulnerable moments. Do you think there's blame?
I do. They have employees that work with children like bus drivers, lunch ladies, school teachers, principals. If they are mandated by law to report this and to document it, at some point, the accusations should have been checked on.
There's so many Gavins out there. Again, what do we take away from this?
Speak out, speak up, do something, act. Don't sit back and watch, act.
Now, coming back out here live, we were told today by the school district that the boy was a student in the district up until just last year when his family opted to homeschool him. I was told by a community member today a viewing is being held for Gavin tonight. Reporting live from Weber County, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Tonight, yet another alleged case of child abuse has lawmakers wondering what went wrong. Thanks for joining us. I'm Heidi Hatch.
And I'm Mark Cabell. This is a tough story. Members of the legislative panel that oversees the Division of Child and Family Services says they're going to take a very close look at the death of a 12-year-old boy that occurred in West Haven.
Members of this panel say they were already questioning DCFS for how they handled the investigation into the Ruby Frankie Jody Hildebrandt case.
2 News' Paul Nelson live in West Haven with more. And Paul, this child's death has left a lot of unanswered questions here.
A lot of them, actually, yes. As a matter of fact, we're talking about the Child Welfare Legislative Oversight Panel. This is the group that oversees DCFS if they feel like maybe a child has kind of slipped through the cracks of the system. Now, it's too early to know exactly how DCFS responded to this particular case. However, the panel members tell us that this case is definitely on their radar.
Carbon County Representative Christine Watkins is the House chair of the oversight panel, and she says she can't help but think of what that 12-year-old abuse victim went through.
It's really bothered me that that shouldn't have happened here in Utah.
What's especially troubling for Watkins is that officials with the Weber School District claim they made multiple complaints about the alleged abuse. And while it's too soon to know how DCFS responded in this particular case, she says it appears the case has similar problems to the Frankie Hildebrandt investigation, as in multiple reports were filed, but little action appears to have been taken.
As the panel that oversees DCFS, how can you add pressure to DCFS to tighten up the cracks or make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen again?
We can change the laws. We can require more.
One law Watkins wants to change would close what she calls a loophole in abuse investigations. She says Frankie and Hildebrandt simply refused to answer the door when investigators tried to see the kids, and DCFS was powerless to work around that.
DCFS and the police tried multiple times, phone calls, knocking on the door, and they just never answered the phone and never answered the door.
Earlier this month, the panel spoke with DCFS Director Tanya Myra. After that meeting, she told 2 News the agency is always trying to find ways to improve.
Look at the data and look at those tangible outcomes to see where we might be able to recommend some improvements.
Now, so when will the panel actually get answers to their questions? Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen for a long time. The division does have a policy where they cannot give specific details about any case to the panel until after the criminal trial has ended, and they don't give details about any specific case to the general public ever. Reporting live, TV 2 News.
A great business technology partner like Les Olson IT.
The first time we're hearing from the Weber School District following the death of a 12-year-old in West Haven.
Ariel Harrison has been tracking this story from the beginning and joins us now live from the district. Ariel?
Lincoln Bryan, the school district told me today that complaints were filed by school employees to the state leading up to the boy being withdrawn from public school to be homeschooled last fall. That statement from the district reads in part, quote, prior to the student being withdrawn from the district, multiple complaints were filed by school employees with Utah's DCFS related to the suspected abuse and neglects of this child, end quote. Now, last week, the boy's dad and stepmom called for help at the home when he became unresponsive there. Medical teams took the boy to the hospital where he died there, and an examination later revealed what they called clear emaciation and malnutrition, again, according to authorities and arrest documents. Now, I am in communication with DCFS today, trying to learn more about those reports, whether any action was taken. That being said, Weber School District says they are offering counseling and support to employees, being that this child was a former student in their district. Reporting live in Weber County, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Now here is his obituary, everyone. He was born January the 5th, 2012. He died July the 9th, 2024. I wish people could go over there and offer support to whatever family members, good family members, friends, whatever. Gavin Peterson, forever 12 years old, passed away on July the 9th, 2024. Gavin was born on January the 5th, 2012, to Melanie Peterson and Shane Peterson in Ogden, Utah. He was such a happy boy with a contagious smile who loved his family. Gavin was intelligent, funny, and kind, with a curious nature, who enjoyed science and learning about the solar system. So he had no cause really for diapers or nothing, y'all. He had no cause. He was potty trained and everything. Okay, he was intelligent, science whiz and everything. Look how much they really devalued that child. His favorite color was blue, and he liked Pokemon and the Nintendo Switch. He is survived by his mom and dad, brothers Tyler and Colson, and sister Melanie. Gavin was a bright spark and was destined to be a huge personality, even though his time on Earth was cut tragically short. Although we will miss him, he will forever remain in our hearts. The family would like to express their heartfelt thanks to first responders and the doctors and nurses at McKay-D Hospital who did all they could to save Gavin. The Gavin Peterson Funeral Fund has been set up at American First Credit Union as well. The GoFundMe no longer exists, okay? Because it was to help family with funeral expenses during this time. And I'm thinking right here, the family would like to express a heartfelt thanks to first responders and the doctors and nurses at the KD Hospital who did all they could to save Gavin. I tell you, they wouldn't have had to do all that if y'all would have treated him right. If y'all would have fed him, if y'all would have clothed him, if y'all would have let him have a bed to sleep in. Geez, if you would have let him. Sorry. It angers me, y'all. So, Utah lawmaker here, let's see what this is about. Promises answers as protest is planned for 12-year-old boy's death. That was January the 31st. The culprit died from alleged starvation. Community members and lawmakers want to know what state workers did to help the boy. One lawmaker told 2 News that answers will be coming soon. Okay, come on, we need more answers, right? In addition to speaking with a lawmaker, 2 News interviewed a woman organizing a protest demanding answers. She shared after her own issues with DCFS. She believed that Gavin's case is not an isolated incident. We already know that it's not an isolated incident. She feels strongly that it's a tragedy we can't learn from until we have all the facts. Community member Sabrina Tracy said hearing about 12-year-old Gavin Peterson's story has been difficult to stomach. I just sat there and thought about what he must have endured. Excuse me, she said. Sitting in that little room in a diaper being fed one piece of bread a day with mustard. It literally made me throw up. I just said, I can't sit back and say, this is frustrating. I have to get out and do something for this boy, for future kids and everything, right? Tracy wants people to join her Monday in seeking justice for Gavin, who died in early July of suspected starvation. I want DCFS to come out from behind the curtain because up until this point, all they have essentially said is due to privacy, she said. Tracy recounted her first-hand experience with the system when concerns over possible neglect arose in her extended family. They started keeping the kids in the house all the time. They took them out of school, and again, CPS said, well, we're doing what we can. She said, yeah, right. In Tracy's experience, it took relentless calling and reporting for months before the boys were removed from the home in question. She wishes the same had happened for Gavin. Representative Christine Watkins chairs the Child Welfare Oversight Panel in the Utah Legislature. She said her committee is scheduled to meet in September with DCFS for a briefing on the West Haven case. If y'all find out before I do on the findings of this, please keep me in the loop because I've got so many stories. I hope that I can remember. I want to know what reports were made. Were there attempts to see this little boy or go to the home? Or when did they stop and why did they stop? Watkins said. 2 News asked if she felt the issue warrants meeting sooner. Right now, personal opinion, I think we're just at the point where we know we need to change some laws or create new ones, Watkins said. Watkins is currently working on a bill that would allow social workers to get warrants if a child's safety is in serious question. Given that Gavin died and there may be other kids in tough situations right now, 2 News asked if anything can be done soon. Now, I know of cases where, they try to say that some of the DCS workers try to say a child's in danger when the child ain't in danger just so they confiscate our kids. That's happened in Texas quite a bit. Would not give them that authority to go and arrest. I think, you know, the police do need to be there. Well, I think if they call DCFS, they also have the right to call police and they can work together. Exactly. An answer points to a system Tracy knows to be broken. Tracy said law enforcement officers told her, even if we, as law enforcement officers, suspect abuse, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Do what? There's nothing you can do about it? You can't go and arrest the parents? You can't go ahead and take the kid out of the home? Do what? You have to go through the Department of Child Protective Services to get that warrant. And then when you talk to your caseworker or whoever's been assigned to the case, I don't know why they take the amount of time they do or whether disconnecting getting that warrant to get them out and get them safe. Wow. Wow. So they had the protest calling for answers, and they already had Monday, August the 5th. So here's the West Haven boy story sparks. Let me get on down here. Discussion on hunger and school meal programs. 2 News took questions to the State Board of Education to learn more on the child hunger issue in Utah after a 12-year-old boy allegedly. It's brought up question among those who tried to help 12-year-old Gavin Peterson, specifically whether more can be done to provide free meals for kids in school. A woman who worked in the lunchroom where Gavin Peterson went to school said it was clear he was coming to school hungry. The woman, Jan Davis, said that when staff began paying for his meals, Gavin's parents put a stop to it and ultimately pulled him from public school altogether. Wow. Pulled him from school basically because the school was feeding him. Wow, wow, wow. While the state, I would hope that the school, if I couldn't afford, a meal for my kid, which, I did but provide, but if I couldn't, I would hope that I'd be glad for somebody to step in and help my kids eat right. I wouldn't want to go hungry. Well, the State Board of Education said they couldn't talk specifically about the West Haven case. They did provide information about the school meal program and what it would take to provide free meals for all kids in Utah. Davis saw firsthand how many kids took advantage of free school meals during the pandemic. It went from almost feeding 700 students lunch a day to the lower 400s. It was a huge drop, she said. Davis feels the demand is clear, and Gavin's case reinforces the need. She said lunch staff regularly saw the boy come to school hungry and were even more worried when he was pulled from school last fall. You would argue there are other Gavins out there that need this. There are, Davis confirmed. It shows in the numbers of how many children come for breakfast when it's free versus how many come when they have to pay even for lunch. 2 News took questions to the USBE asking what reviving that pandemic era free meal program would take. How much would it cost? 2 News asked Kimberly Loveland, Director of Child Nutrition Programs. It must be millions of dollars, she replied. Loveland explained that under the current program, schools that meet certain criteria can apply to provide free meals to all students. But evidently, they didn't want him to eat. That was a problem. They did not want that child to get the nutrition. For community eligible provision, there's a certain number of kids that have to be participating in a qualified program such as SNAP. Once they meet a certain threshold, they can apply to operate that community eligible provision. And then we approve those, Loveland said. Another gauge is the poverty level, Loveland said. The state board approved dozens of schools that qualified and applied for free meals last year. We had 71 schools across Utah in school year 2024 operate one of those two provisions. We'll have our numbers for 2025 here in the next few weeks. We're still working on finishing up those approvals, she said. Considering the cost, 2 News asked Loveland if bringing back the pandemic era free meal program was realistic or not. I mean, the schools are just getting over $3 a meal for a free eligible child. And to have a full, well balanced meal for $3, we can't do that, she said. 2 News also emailed several funding related questions to a separate spokesperson for the State Board of Education, including if there's enough money to pay for lunches for all kids. The board said it would be an estimated $42 million. What's their position on the need for a free meal program? The spokesperson told 2 News they don't have one. At this point in time, it doesn't look like there will be anything federally that will come about to make meals at no charge for all students in the country. Families can apply for free or reduced meals for their districts on an individual basis. At the very least, Davis, the former lunch worker we spoke with, said more outreach and education about that process at the school and community levels is needed. Regarding legislative action, Kelsey James, Board Communications Coordinator with the Utah State Board of Education, said, the draft legislation funded request for last year was ultimately not added to the list of board-supported requests sent to the governor's office in October. However, there is another draft legislative funded request this year that's been worked up by the USBE staff at the request of 3 board members. If granted by the legislature, this would provide free meals for all students currently on the free and reduced lunch program under the reduced price category. The board will vote in September on whether to add it to the list of official board-approved funding requests. If it is added, then the board will vote in October on whether to prioritize it among their top funding priorities. Let me tell y'all, when I was going hungry, only eating a sandwich a day, I would go in the lunchroom, just open the doors. The smell of food nauseated me. I had to hurry up and get out of the lunchroom because I wasn't used to eating. Oh, man. So I didn't eat, just because it was nauseous from a personal experience, okay? I'll say that. The DCFS responds to protesters demanding transparency in child welfare cases. Okay, I like to hear them people yelling or something like that. So let's see this. Settings.
A protest is happening right now against DCFS over their handling of child abuse allegations that led to the death of a 13-year-old West Haven boy. Ariel Harrison has more on what answers the community is now seeking.
protest for Gavin is getting underway now near this Ogden City Park. In fact, you can see people have gathered here off 25th Street and Washington Boulevard. You can see some of their signs. It says Gavin deserved better. Justice for Gavin. A significant turnout we're seeing as it just got underway now at 6. Now, I spoke with the organizer of this today who talked with me about the group's intentions for tonight, even if DCFS doesn't respond with answers.
We want answers to what happened with poor little Gavin.
Approaching 1 month since 12-year-old Gavin Peterson's death, Sabrina Tracy says the calls for answers are getting louder.
We want to know where we failed him, where we went wrong.
Since the death and the arrest of Gavin's family members, state officials have released little to no information on the case, citing privacy laws. However, community members like Tracy say this is a case that warrants answers. She reached out to DCFS directly, demanding that, and received a response, she says, after speaking out in our newscast last week.
Some of it was a little vague, but it did said DCFS has policies and guidelines driven by Utah code and federal guidelines that direct and guide our practices when working with families. Gavin's case will be reviewed by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Tracy said the response went on to discuss an upcoming legislative meeting where DCFS will go over the case with an oversight committee. It's something the chair of that panel told us about last week.
Setting it up for September, we need to know why this little boy fell through the cracks.
That meeting's happening in September. It's still quite a ways away.
Too long. Too long. There was a life lost and a horrific the way he died. That is too long.
Today, I reached out to DCFS ahead of the protest to ask whether they had any intention to respond to the community concerns. I did not hear back by my deadline.
What are you hoping they come out and say?
What happened? Where the hiccup slide? Where the ball dropped? And specifically what they're going to do to fix it. We need change and we need it quick so this doesn't happen anymore.
Now, coming back out here live to this protest that's once again underway, I need to add that just a bit ago, I did receive a statement from DCFS. In it, they said that they recognize the need for that the public has for answers from the agency. They also listed several reviews that are currently happening. They listed an internal DCFS review, a review from the State Department of Health and Human Services, and a third review from an independent committee that we will, of course, stay on top of and update everyone as we get that information. Reporting live in Ogden, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Okay, with the close of the Paris Olympics, attention now turns to future host cities.
So when we go right here, who's still here with me? Can't believe it. Once it keeps changing every time I'm doing that. Look at that. So here's what here. Here's their full response, okay? Thank you for giving the DHHS Division of Child and Family Services a chance to respond. We appreciate your time your organization has taken to get to know DCFS recently. Below are statements for attribution for the Division of Child and Family Services related to the protests and related questions we received this afternoon. The protest, the senseless death of a child, is an outrage. For those of us who work within the child welfare system, this is a worst case scenario. The system exists so that every child is protected from abuse and neglect. When the community feels helpless in the face of a tragedy and wants so badly to understand what happened and why, the public seeks answers. We understand the need and desire for answers for DCFS. For everyone who has demonstrated, we hear you. Please know we do everything we can within our community to serve children and families, disclose information to the public to the extent allowable under the law. Don't say you do everything within our community to serve children and families. Excuse me? You had 2 years? Do not say you do everything. That is a blatant out lie. I call you out. It is a blatant lie. You did nothing to save this little boy. Nothing was done to save him. DCFS takes every one of the roughly 40,000 reports of abuse or neglect we receive each year seriously, and we work with families to strengthen parents and caregivers while assessing and addressing safety issues related to allegations of child abuse and neglect. Then, if that's true, why didn't you help this little boy? Come on now, get off of it. The loss of a child is tragic for everyone, especially the family and community. Many DCFS employees have given their entire careers toward protecting children and strengthening families. There are several controls in place in the system to do everything possible to reduce the likelihood of tragedy. Unfortunately, despite those controls and efforts, tragedies do occur. These tragedies impact everyone in the child welfare system, including the friends and siblings of a child that's been abused or neglected. What is being done? Sorry. DCFS is currently working with partners across the child welfare system to refine how we work together to protect children at risk or abuse of neglect. DCFS has been conducting a thorough review of our involvement. The Utah Department of Health and Human Sources Fatality Review Committee will also conduct an in-depth review. They'll get you straight, hopefully. A review by the Fatality Review Committee occurs when the death happens within the 12 months of the involvement. In some cases, the department makes a referral even when the family occurs outside of that time frame. The department has referred Gavin's case to the Fatality Review Committee, given our commitment to conduct independent reviews of critical cases. The committee is made up of a multidisciplinary team that includes the department's Fatality Review Coordinator and may include representation from the following. I don't know why I said may include misrepresentation. Maybe that was a whoopie. Maybe it wasn't. So, healthcare professionals, law enforcement, guardian ad litem office, individuals with expertise or knowledge that may contribute significantly to the formal reviews, such as the Utah State Board of Education or school district. The committee will report detailed findings to DHS leaders and to Utah leaders, child welfare legislative. Excuse me, I get a little need to slow down. Utah's legislature's Child Welfare Legislative Oversight Panel, which is scheduled to meet in September. Members of CW LOP will have a chance to ask questions regarding DCFS's involvement and identify any gaps or areas of improvement related to policy, practice, and child welfare laws. Why didn't y'all do anything before? Y'all had that other case in which they said and y'all couldn't get through. But did you even try to get through with this people? You're not going above and beyond. If a police officer knows that a child is being abused, and they said even we cannot do nothing unless DCS, that is a crock of bull. Go to the mayor. Go somewhere else. Come on now, people. Let something be done. Don't let this senseless killing of our children and abusing of children keep going on. Y'all are adults. He is a child. He is in the need of adult care. He loved his family, which means he loved his abusers. But look, evidently they didn't love him. They might claim they love him, but they do not. Love is not hurting someone. Love is not abusing someone. Love is not neglecting your child. Love is not making him stand in a certain spot. And if he moved because y'all was watching with a camera, y'all beat him again. Yeah, I saw this somewhere else. I can't remember where I saw it. But yeah, this is what happened too. Ah, these people make me so mad. Tracy said she is hoping DCFS will come out with answers. What happened? Where the hiccups were? Where the ball dropped? And specifically, what what they're going to do to fix it. She said, "We need change and we need it quick, and so this doesn't happen anymore." They got plenty of evidence on cameras, you know. The former aide shares troubling memories of Gavin Peterson's struggles. Oh, okay. Here's a celebration. This was written August the 7th. A celebration of life is taking place for 12-year-old Gavin Peterson at a local park. Multiple reports from school workers to the state expressing concern about his well-being and safety. What about the abuse? That's why he was. Now a new voice is sharing Gavin's story, one that hasn't been heard yet. Rachel Reynolds, who worked as a student aide at Canesville Elementary when Gavin attended, remembers him fondly. His smile has always made me smile, she said. However, Reynolds also noticed a change in Gavin over time. News asked her why she kept a fifth grade picture of him. Because there was a big difference in that photo from the others. You could see that he was definitely more sad, she said. Reynolds spent one-on-one time with Gavin during his time at the Canesville and witnessed troubling behavior, such as him trying to get food out of the trash. It's haunted me since I first saw that. It is something that I would never be able to forget, she said. One incident that particularly stands out to Reynolds happened in the winter. She walked Gavin to the office where a call was immediately made to DCFS. He, Rachel, is his man, and he showed me his hands, and they were swollen. His fingers were swollen because he had obviously been picking at the skin around his fingernails, and they looked infected, she said. When asked if it looked like harm, Brenda said to me, it looked like somebody who has a tick, just picking at their fingers, like whether it's a skin tag or something, just pulling at it. And it was every single finger. Despite the call for DCFS, Reynolds said nothing came of it, a pattern she noticed with other reports and phone calls. Concern grew even more when Gavin was pulled from school altogether. Our biggest concern was, is he getting food from somebody? Is somebody feeding him? Reynolds said. She and her co-workers even asked children in his neighborhood if they had seen him over the summer, but no one had. See, he wasn't even allowed to be outside. See, I wish at the Christ for help. We were hurt, she said. Gavin's father, stepmom, and brother were arrested in July in the child abuse homicide case. A judge scheduled the preliminary hearings for October. Oh, so the cases are not even heard in court yet. See, y'all, the preliminary hearings are in October. Well, so let me mute the cam where y'all can listen to this. Hello there. You still here? I'm glad you're there. Hey there, Be Real. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Let me change the settings right quick. I don't mind showing.
Heart-wrenching, sick to my stomach.
Community members want answers following the death of a 12-year-old West Haven boy last week.
The darkness tonight as a heartbroken community asks questions like why and how.
I just feel like we have failed him.
Clearly, there has been a long pattern of abuse.
It honestly hurts because we are our kids' safe place. They should come to us and talk to us and tell us what's going on, and he did not have that.
Near the West Haven home, where authorities say a 12-year-old boy died from neglect and abuse. They're not shocked by the accusations against this family.
No, authorities arrested the young victim's dad, the stepmom, and a brother in the past 24 hours, each now facing child abuse homicide charges.
Ariel Harrison live tonight from West Haven. Ariel?
Yeah, these documents in my hand, the boy's brother, stepmom, and father are accused of severe child abuse and neglect that authorities say led to the 12-year-old's death. They also detail attempts to conceal that abuse. Neighbors I spoke with nearby say while the allegations and accusations are horrific, they are sadly not shocking.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, $118 for.
I wish we would have called more.
A neighbor in the West Haven community who wanted to stay off camera says he personally reported the family to police multiple times.
I wish I could say it was shocking, but it's not.
He says for the past 10 years, the parents Shane Peterson and Nicole Scott have been aggressive and hostile to his wife and kids.
3 or 4 cameras pointed right in my backyard and bathroom windows.
Why?
Great question.
In each of the suspect's arrest documents, investigators noted cameras around the victim's home, along with deleted cell phone video files of the child in his room. A search warrant of the parents' and brothers' phones revealed conversations about locking the child's door, whether he'd been fed that day, and even hitting or beating the child.
Clearly, there has been a long pattern of abuse.
Kristen Floyd, a child advocate and licensed clinical mental health worker, read over the arrest documents of the case. I asked her to weigh in.
What to you was the most egregious?
I mean, clearly, if the age of the child and the fact that he was being fed just minimal amounts.
Floyd also noted the orchestration of the abuse spelled out in arrest documents among the family members.
That they had it on camera and they were text messaging, that back and forth. And so, they knew what they were doing.
After the 21-year-old brother was arrested today, authorities issued a press release and directed my questions about the case to the county attorney, Christopher Allred. I called and requested to speak with him, but never heard back. I sent an email asking if DCFS was made aware of the boy before he died last week, as neighbors claim. Information Floyd says will be key moving forward.
Were they going into the home? Were they really doing a complete investigation? Those are the questions I would want answered.
Now coming back out here live, you can see this memorial that's grown for the boy set up in front of the home. It has only grown since news of this case and the arrests have gained traction. The arrest documents do detail disturbing allegations I didn't get to in this report. Shane Peterson's father, the boy's father that was arrested, but the grandfather I spoke with today in person wouldn't go on camera, but did tell me the family is working through their attorneys. Reporting live in West Haven, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
The fence behind me has become a makeshift memorial with balloons, ribbons, stuffed animals, and more. I talked to a woman whose kids went to school with Gavin about why she came and why they wanted to tie some of those ribbons. Underneath the blue sky, blue ribbons tied to the fence for a 12-year-old boy, now dead because of alleged neglect from his caretakers. They're blue for a reason.
I was planning on blue for abuse awareness, and we found out that it was also Gavin's favorite color.
Brindy Lipham's kids went to school with Gavin, but she says he had been homeschooled for some time. Once they heard what happened, they wanted to pay their respects.
It's hard for my littles to really understand what's going on. They are heartbroken.
Balloons and stuffed animals make the fence a pretty sight from the road, but inside those walls lies a different story. According to probable cause documents, Gavin's room was carpetless and didn't have bedding or blankets. The documents say screenshots showed him wearing only a heavy saturated diaper and curling up on the floor with sores on his back. For you as a mother, and when you read something like that, just kind of neglect like that and abuse like that, what goes through your mind?
It makes me angry. It honestly hurts because we are our kids' safe place. They should come to us and talk to us and keep us safe and tell us what's going on, and he did not have that.
Community members want to know if school employees did their part by filing reports with DCFS, why this boy fell through the cracks and was allowed to remain in that home. Questions I attempted to get answers to today.
Absolutely heart-wrenching, sick to my stomach.
As the memorial for 12-year-old Gavin grows outside his West Haven home, emotions do too.
How could this go on and no one know? How could it have been reported and heads aren't rolling?
Today, a community member who asked we conceal their identity spoke with us about news of the reports of multiple complaints filed. What did you know about the complaints?
I knew one had been filed. I have spoken with that person since, and it's heartbreaking. That person is absolutely distraught over it because that person done everything they could
This morning, I reached out to DCFS to ask if they would confirm the district's statement that multiple reports concerning the boy's safety were filed. Their response cited privacy laws, saying, quote, DCFS legally cannot provide any information regarding these questions or claims. In a separate statement, the department said the death, quote, devastates us, calling it tragic, and said the agency, quote, works with children and families during some of their most vulnerable moments.
Do you think there's blame?
I do. They have employees that work with children, like bus drivers, lunch ladies, school teachers, principals. If they are mandated by law to report this and to document it, at some point, the accusations should have been checked on.
There's so many Gavins out there. Again, what do we take away from this?
Speak out, speak up, do something, act. Don't sit back and watch, act.
If you're turning 65 or beyond, you're going to want to watch this. There are a lot of people today that are Medicare eligible.
Now, coming back out here live, we were told today by the school district that the boy was a student in the district up until just last year when his family opted to homeschool him. I was told by a community member today a viewing is being held for Gavin tonight. Well, we know multiple reports were filed by school employees to DCFS before Gavin's death. But an expert I spoke with tonight explained filing a report here with this department doesn't automatically just trigger an investigation, and it's something she feels could be confusing, especially since it could take a lot of courage to make that call in the first place.
How did he slip through the cracks? How did someone not know this if it was reported?
People living in West Haven say they ache for answers, not knowing what was done, if anything, to help 12-year-old Gavin Peterson.
There should have been physical eyes on that kid. Weekly, monthly, something.
We don't know what DCFS did. That's a hard part to this.
Yeah, I think that there's this really gray line on getting information.
Kristen Floyd is a licensed mental health counselor in the state. Having filed reports with the department throughout her career, she says it's rare to know what comes of them.
You know, I've made a report and then seen that family 2 or 3 weeks later, just in their normal, natural environment, and nothing has changed.
Reading over Gavin's case, she and others question how teams checked on the boy following the reports, especially after he was pulled from school. A task she admits isn't as simple as some might think.
I mean, DCFS can't just barge into their home by any means. Sometimes they'll make appointments with the families to come and meet with them, and then the families don't show up. Or even worse, the family lets DCFS in and they show them, you know, maybe a false sense of security for the child.
Floyd says while she understands privacy laws, Gavin's case highlights an area where she says our policies might be too one-sided.
I think we'll ever get answers as to why it got to this point.
You know, unfortunately, all these investigations are confidential.
As a mental health counselor, Floyd is required by the state to report any abuse concerns.
If I'm accountable as a mandatory reporter, what are the consequences on the other side if things go wrong? But we can't ignore that this case happened and that something went wrong with this case. And therefore, policies or procedures need to be investigated.
Right now, a candlelight vigil honoring a 12-year-old boy who heartbroken community members say was failed by everyone.
Last fall, the Weber School District said Gavin Peterson's stepmother pulled him out of school to be homeschooled. The decision came on the heels of numerous reports from school employees concerned about that boy's safety. And 12 months later, the boy's parents and brother are arrested for his death.
Ariel Harrison is live tonight from that vigil. Ariel, I'm sure a very emotional night. Are any family members there?
I am told Mom was here. She didn't speak. However, Gavin's uncle did. However, that has been a big question among community members. Aside from the boy's father, his stepmom, and brother who are in jail, they want to know where this boy's family is. And despite the community's efforts to get authorities involved and step in, they want to know how he was failed this terribly. Lights are dimming the darkness tonight as a heartbroken community asks questions like why and how.
I just feel like we have failed him.
Jan Davis worked in the lunchroom at Gavin's school before his parents pulled him out last fall. She, among others at Canesville Elementary, knew he could be in trouble.
We would notice him sneak over to the garbage cans where the children empty their trays, and he would tried to sneak food out of the garbage can.
During that school year, Davis and some of her colleagues started putting money on the boy's account to make sure he had food at school. But sadly, she says they were forced to stop after Gavin's stepmom realized it was happening.
It just broke your heart.
For the first time in her life, Davis reported abuse and neglect concerns about a student directly to DCFS. Her colleagues did too. They all got especially worried when he didn't return for school.
We were not allowed to follow up. It was an invasion of the family privacy for us to call the state and ask where it was standing and what they were doing for him.
Did you read through the arrest documents of his family members?
Yes, I did.
What?
I have been a mess. I think the system has failed him.
Heartbroken by the loss, while holding a candle tonight, she admits many of them feel a sense of guilt. She hopes we can do better.
Could have done so much more. I could have packed his lunch for school. I could have pushed the issue harder. I just feel like I could have done more.
Now, Davis also described Gavin as just a cute, polite, soft-spoken little boy. Beyond the reports, we've realized there wasn't much the workers at the school, educators, could really do other than maybe perhaps report it a little bit more than they did. The district did confirm to us just last week that multiple reports were filed directly to DCFS. Now, whether those claims or how they were investigated or investigated at all, we still don't have clear answers and are still working to get those.
I'm no author, and yet I sell literally thousands of books on Amazon every single month. And the crazy thing is,
Mark, Jamie, educators fall into that realm of mandated reporters. And like we just mentioned, Weber Schools confirmed with us last week that multiple complaints were filed by employees and long before the boy died 2 weeks ago. Now, the district has warned its employees from speaking with media. However, one former and 2 current employees wanted to talk because they say they just can't stay silent about this.
He was your typical little kid. You had to tell him to sit down occasionally.
It's been several years since Jackie Allred drove the bus 12-year-old Gavin Peterson rode to school.
Was there any neglect at that point that you noticed?
Not that I noticed. I know the stepmother was very protective, wanted to make sure he sat where he needed to be.
But news of his death hits too close to home. She lives just a door down from where Gavin lived and where his family members were arrested last week. Allred says the allegations keep her up at night.
Still haunts me.
You worked in Gavin's school?
Yes, I was a lunch lady.
Jan Davis, a former district employee, told me she is one of the workers who reported abuse concerns to DCFS. She says after a group of them tried to feed Gavin at school, his stepmom put a stop to it.
The next week he come to school and he had a chipped front tooth. And we were all afraid that we had caused that.
In addition to Davis and other lunch workers, she says Gavin's principal, the school nurse, and a teacher also filed complaints with the state. Bus drivers did as well.
I felt like something needed to be done.
Brindy Lippum helps on the buses in the district. She didn't know Gavin well, but planned the vigil for him last night. A task that broke her heart, knowing so little about the boy from his obituary.
One photo, they say they knew what he liked, Pokemon and Blue. It was a school picture. Where was he as a kid? Where was he playing? We don't really know he liked Pokemon because obviously he wasn't doing those things.
As frustration builds, so do the calls and demands for answers.
Did they check into it? What was their findings and why didn't they help him?
Ahead of court hearings next week surrounding the West Haven child abuse homicide case, we're getting some insight into how child welfare checks are actually handled.
Ariel Harrison live from DCFS tonight with answers there. Ariel.
Well, to be clear, we don't have information from DCFS or law enforcement regarding visits to 12-year-old Gavin Peterson's West Haven home. But we do know what authorities uncovered inside that home that led to the arrest of his dad, his stepmom, and his brother.
Those arrest documents, though, from family members tell us photo, video, and cell phone evidence play a massive role in this case. Authorities suspect from the evidence gathered, the boy was in a prolonged pattern of abuse in his home before he died 2 weeks ago. Leading up to his withdrawal from public school last fall, we know faculty members in the Weber School District reported abuse and neglect concerns to the state. I spoke with a retired deputy chief of police unaffiliated with this case who talked about welfare checks and DCFS investigations.
Are they separate?
They are separate investigations, absolutely. Doesn't mean that they don't work hand in hand. But if we have the call where law enforcement comes out first and they find something or they believe that they found something, then in those cases we are going to, look into it a little bit further.
When you make that call, does it guarantee there will be eyes on that child in some capacity?
They have to investigate enough that we can understand that children are safe.
Also, a former school lunch worker who tried to alert the state about that West Haven boy who appeared to be starving is now calling for changes to school meal programs across the state. She believes all students, not just some, should have access to free meals.
We begin with Ariel Harrison, who went to find out what that would take and if the idea is even doable. She's live in the State School Board of Education for us right now. Ariel?
Yeah, the State School Board of Education oversees the school meal programs across the state. That former worker I spoke with today said it was clear to her and other lunch workers at the time that 12-year-old Gavin Peterson was coming to school starving. And she felt then, strongly and more so even now, that free meals may have made all the difference for this young boy.
I think it would have helped so much.
Jan Davis started working at Gavin Peterson's elementary school during COVID, a time when school meals were free for all students.
You would see him digging through the garbage can for food. And that's when I first noticed him.
Davis says this didn't start happening until free meals went away and families were required to pay.
You can go online and you can apply for reduced school lunches or free school lunches.
But you have to apply.
You have to apply.
It just doesn't seem like that was in the cards for this kid.
No.
After conflict with the family following workers' attempts to feed the boy at school, last fall he was withdrawn for homeschool. Davis claims she and other colleagues were sick, questioning whether he was being fed at all.
Is there a part of you that wonders, had it just been in place already, that it wouldn't have been an issue at all?
Yes.
In an effort to learn more about the school meal programs, I reached out to the State Board of Ed. While their staff wasn't available to answer questions today, I went to a legislator passionate about the hunger issue.
From my experience, kids come to school hungry.
State Representative Dan Johnson is a former educator and sponsored legislation to provide breakfast in schools. He supports the idea of free meals.
What would it take to make school meals free for all kids in Utah?
School districts make that decision individually. It's not mandated currently.
Okay, so it's not something that comes from legislators?
No, but of course we fund money at the State Department of Education.
I asked Johnson if Utah has the capacity to cover the cost.
The legislature could take a look at that.
Something Davis says she's prepared to take up with lawmakers.
How many kids are out there that come to school hungry that we're not aware of? They deserve a free meal.
Now, while the State School Board of Ed couldn't talk with me today, they said they would. I do plan to sit down with them and ask about the reality or ability to provide free meals for K-12 students in Utah. Reporting live from the State School Board of Education, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Okay. Thank you so much for everybody that came in. Please get the word out. If you see something, say something. Evidently, people did speak up, but nothing was done. This poor child, it should have never happened. I wonder why didn't brother go ahead and, tell when he went out in public, or was he threatened himself? I don't really know. We don't know the basis on the brother situation, but he has been arrested too because of this, part of it. There's a lot of camera footage, a lot more tapes, a lot of things they cannot get out to the public. So we are going to find out a lot of the different abuses of the case does come out into the news. So y'all continue to pray for all these kids that's affected. Lots of love, comfort, and guidance for y'all. God bless y'all. Thank you so much.